I think I've lost count of the number of SUVs I've reviewed ever since I started appearing in your screens almost 3 years ago now. And in that time, the SUV situation has gone from SUV? No need lah. I don't even have a family, why do I need such a big car? To there's a Rolls-Royce SUV. Mazda alone has the CX-3, the CX-5, the CX-9, the new CX-30 and the all-electric MX-30. But we'll be looking at the SUV Mazda has just locally assembled to sit between the CX-9 and CX-5, the top spec 2.2-litre turbo diesel all-wheel drive of the new Mazda CX-8. Remember my first ever video, the Mazda CX-5? I thought the car looked great, but the rear end just looked a little like big face with tiny eyes. I think the guys in Japan saw our video. So for this CX-8, they've basically taken the rear end of a CX-9, tweaked this, sharpened that, and slapped it onto a body with a CX-5 face. Some of y'all might be too young, but have y'all seen Face Off? John Travolta, Nicolas Cage?
Let's just kill each other. I'd like to take his face off.
Something like that, except this one is a bum transplant. Speaking of the face...
What kind of sauce is that?
Hey, please, focus is here. So the only way to distinguish the CX-8 from the CX-5 is through the grille design. Some might say that it looks a little bland. Personally, I think it looks more mature. And coming from someone who washes his own car, this is just so much easier to clean. As opposed to... 有冇搞錯啊？點洗喎？天光咯！ While the CX-8 may seem like a Frankenstein of sorts, with the face of one SUV and the bum of another, a lot of very specific attention has been given to it. Take this area here for example, it's been lined with all sorts of noise and vibration dampening materials to suppress all the unpleasant things that you don't want in the cabin for a much more comfortable, quieter ride. Even the gap between the roof molding and the roof spoiler, Mazda said it's been narrowed to make the ride that much more relaxing for the third row passengers. Overall, I think it looks great, even nicer as a whole compared to the CX-9. Although it's based on the CX-9, it's not as big. It looks a little taller, a little longer than the CX-5 because it has more seats, but it still looks very proportionate. That's the thing with these new generation of Mazdas, isn't it? Styling is such a priority. Can you name a Mazda in recent times that don't look good? It's not easy, you know. Except maybe the previous generation Mazda 2 sedan. Oof. I don't know how there were so many on the road at one point. Mazda's got some really good salesmen, huh? The first thing you'll notice coming into the CX-8 is how familiar this setup is. It's almost exactly like the CX-5. The steering, the instrument cluster, the center console, although it's a little different at the bottom area here. But what I really like about this car though is how comfortable these seats are with Napa leather upholstery. This color as well. I find it really appealing, very classy, very expensive. What I really find very exclusive about this cabin though, even more so than this Napa leather, and this might weird you out, is this wooden trim here, which Mazda says is from an Ayus tree from Africa. How exclusive is that? Down to the things that I didn't really like, things that sort of inconvenienced me a bit throughout the last few days that I've had it, is this thing right here. Not only do I think that it's not very proportionate like a well-built body with tiny legs, the display resolution from the reverse camera, it's just poor. It's a little blur, it's a little zoomed in, a little fish eye. The display, it's rather small. It's just not befitting of the stature of such a car. So the CX-8 is available either as a 6 or 7-seater. Strangely, the base model is the one that comes with 7 seats, while the rest of the 3 comes with 2 seats in the middle with a center console squashed in between or an aisle to get to the third row. And personally, for someone who is after something with an SUV look but the versatility of an MPV, that's the model I will get. But unlike the other models, the one with the center aisle does not come with USB ports. A little inconvenient. That being said though, it does feel like an MPV here. You get a really deep armrest, massive cup holder for like a bottle this size, aircon controls, sun blinds. I really can't think of anything else that you might need in the second row. So before I go to the third row, check out how low these seats can recline. Ooh. So if you're not going to buy the CX-8 with the center aisle, I think it completely defeats the purpose of buying this SUV because it's back to square one. Getting into the third row, you're going to have to do the same old SUV thing, which is to fold the second row seats, push it forward, climb up, not very gracefully, and then push the seats back. This is somewhat in the position that offers me enough space in the second row. And look, although I wish there was aircon vents though, maybe on the ceiling, by the side, I'm not sure. However, Mazda did say that there are funnels under the second row seat that channel air from the front to the third row. Although I'm not so sure how effective it could be. Honestly, you see why I want to buy the one with the center aisle. Not only is access to the third row a lot easier, on occasion, when you need to carry more people, it also allows more air from the front of the second row to be channeled all the way to the back. I really urge you to watch my CX-8 first impression video when we drove the car in Kulim because I explained and illustrated a whole lot more. Go check it out. On the move, there's plenty going on. You have a head-up display that's just ready to shout at you every time you go too close to the car in front. You have a 360-degree view monitor with bird's eye view to avoid expensive insurance claims, and you have Apple CarPlay and Android Auto to keep you connected. You even get heated seats in the front and in the second row. We live in Malaysia, our seats are just naturally heated, especially during the day. Maybe try seat ventilators next time. I hear they're more effective for our country. There's also plenty of safety systems to keep you and the passengers safe. Over in the front, it's a largely familiar setting from the CX-5 or even the CX-9. Simple to maneuver around, the controls are quite straightforward, typical of modern Mazdas. But let's just say if you were to move up from any C-segment sedan, the CX-5, a CR-V, maybe even the 3 Series, the X1, or even the GLA, would this be considered an upgrade? But I tell you what though, it is a noticeable upgrade, for more reasons than one. Firstly, it's because of how refined it feels being in here. The suspension is set up in such a way that it feels like you're driving on clouds. The Japanese are getting really close to the Germans, you know. Toyota's got their whole TNGA thing going on, Subaru's got their SGP, and these technologies are making their cars nicer to drive, but more importantly, more refined as well. I know I'm gonna get a lot of backlash for saying this, but it feels quite similar to being in a Lexus. If a Lexus was 10 out of 10, this would be a solid 8, if not 8.5. We also have the new 2.5-litre turbocharged CX-5, the most expensive CX-5 you can buy in Malaysia at the moment. And let me tell you, jumping into this, from that, immediately you'll notice the difference. And the CX-5 is already quite refined. You just feel lesser of all the bad stuff like vibrations and noise. You just feel even more disconnected from the outside. And together with all these soft touch surfaces, the Napa leather, whether you're in the front or at the back, Mazda has created a very relaxing environment for you to be in. And then there's the diesel engine and how this thing drives. In my previous CX-8 video, I drove the 2.5-litre naturally aspirated model, and while it's powerful enough in the urban areas, when the roads opened up, you kind of have to push it a little to get it going. It feels like it has to dig deep for that power. You gotta constantly rev the engine, and when you do that, the engine is roaring. You don't want that. The relaxing environment then just becomes a stressful one. This 2.2-litre turbo diesel engine though, let me tell you, the other day I drove my family out for dinner. I was driving it for a while and suddenly I just revved the engine a little harder and my dad was like, "Huh? This is a diesel ah?" Because it was so quiet most of the time. It's got about 450 Newton meters of torque, more or less what a GLA 45 makes, and about 188 horsepower. Ample power delivered gently. You don't even need to stress the engine. You get more than enough power from 2,000 to 3,000 RPM. It just whooshes forward effortlessly. The same goes to the braking performance as well. Brakes hard, but gently. And I think that's the benchmark here. To sufficiently power a 1.8-ton SUV, you gotta have as much torque as a 45 series AMG. The 2.2 and 2.5-litre models share one similarity though, and it's how fluid they feel when you're driving it. The throttle pedal, the engine, the transmission just works very well as a team. Every time I get behind the wheel of higher-end Mazdas, whether it's the CX-9 or the Mazda 6, they always feel very effortless to drive, and this is no different. Doing this job, sometimes I feel quite pressured to make sure I point out some negatives so that I don't look biased. But with this CX-8, I don't care at all because there aren't many to point out. So far, only the size of the display and the display quality has caused any real inconvenience. As for the rest, it's all good. If I absolutely have to point out a few things, perhaps they could offer a digital instrument cluster for the updated model. Perhaps swap the button on the door handle with a sensor for the smart entry system. But they should definitely change the supplier for these ugly floor mats. Personally, I'm not a fan of them at all. I don't know what you think. Maybe some of y'all might like it. Now, I'm not saying it's the perfect car and you absolutely have to buy it, if not you're missing out. Obviously, it's quite expensive, and if your budget isn't that high, perhaps look at the 2-litre GLS CX-5, because I strongly believe that you can still enjoy half, if not 3/4 the refinement in here, in that, for much less. My point is, if you can afford it, if you have the budget, I don't think you'll be disappointed. There aren't many 7-seater SUV options to begin with either. The Toyota Fortuner, it's just not as comfortable and refined. The Nissan X-Trail? Perhaps, but you gotta leave your legs at home and you can't take it into the car with you. Oh, there's the Hyundai Santa Fe. I thought the third row was quite spacious and the interior design was quite solid, but I'm not a fan of how it looks like on the outside. But friends who have seen my Santa Fe video have said that the car looks quite good, so I guess it's quite subjective. So, is this car for you? If you're not a badge snob, you're practical, you're sensible, you have the money for a comfortable, spacious 7-seater that isn't an MPV, with all the features that a modern family would need in the car, don't get this. Check out the CX-8 model with the center aisle, because I think you'd find that quite appealing. But if you think for this kind of money, you're better off in a BMW X1 or a Mercedes GLA, maybe even the 3 Series or the Volkswagen Passat, then perhaps not. You definitely do not understand the purpose of such a car, you don't have the need for it, and I think you may have just wasted your time watching this video. For more information on the all-new Mazda CX-8, do log on to AutoBuzz.my. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, share it, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the bell icon for the latest updates on our newest videos. And it's how fluid they feel when you're driving it. Wow, bow, bow, bow. I want to take his face off. Styling is such a priority. Remember the line so well just now. If you're looking to own one, why did I fall?